Every spring in Denver, people think the whole market heats up at once. That's not what really happens. Demand moves fast to specific homes in specific areas at specific price ranges. Hey, I'm Landon Smith, and I'm a local realtor here in Denver. I've been watching the spring market demand and how it actually shows up for over 18 years. So today, let me show you how the Denver market is shaping up this spring and what that means if you're buying or selling a house right now. All right, so here's the thing. Inventory is up nearly 64% year over year. We just had a huge drop from 14,000 homes down to 7,500 homes from about September timeframe to January. As far as that goes, Denver's median home price is at $557,000. Our active inventory sits right around 7,600 homes, and median days on market now just reached 60 days, according to our last month's numbers, and that's up from 52 days a year ago. So homes are selling just a little bit slower pace than they were a year ago. And when homes sit longer, that opens some things up, right? Some opportunities for buyers in this market. 24% of homes have had price drops, and that's sellers adjusting their expectations to meet this market so that they can sell. So I would describe this market more as functional, not so much an emotional market, because buyers have options. They can look and they have some leverage, but they're using it selectively in certain instances. And so we're going to talk more about that. But there were 699 sales in December. That's down 6.8% from a year ago. Transaction volume was fairly flat as of the end of the year. Beginning of the year, this has been one of the most active Januaries I have seen in my career. It's been incredible how many people are getting going on both the listing side and the buy side. So I think we're in for a year where transaction volume will start to pick up, and we'll see some exciting things happen there. So I would say right now, for the time being, this is more of a thinking market, not a frenzy market where people are just going off the walls, to write an offer at any home that they get somewhat excited about. And so condition really matters if you're a seller. Pricing, your initial price really matters. Also, another interesting thing to note, only 14% of homes sold above list price last year. And that's down 5 percentage points year over year. So we're seeing less bidding wars right now. But here's what makes spring timing critical. When we talk about buyer versus seller leverage, you'll see how quickly the entire negotiation can shift. It does still feel just a little bit like buyers are still on the sidelines and a little bit of a holding pattern, just watching interest rates. And so I think a lot of it still is interest rate dependent. And some sellers, that have pulled their home off the market for the holidays, they're still off the market. They're still waiting to come back until whether it's, deeper into the springtime because they feel like, they want their leaves to bloom or that sort of thing. I think we'll have a lot of that listing inventory is going to come back on the market, during our spring surge here. Also, another interesting thing is attached homes like condos and townhomes. They dropped 1% in 2025, according to the median price. So that's not as significant as we were. At some points in the year, we were down 7 year over year on the average price. So switching to median price, there's less volatility, and it's a number that tracks a little more consistency over time. They continue to get hit harder if you have an HOA that's problematic with special assessments, with rising HOA fees and insurance costs. It's also interesting to note that home prices rose 38.5% from March of 2020 to April of 2022. So just over a 2-year span, that was a surge like we've never seen, right? To grow 38+% during that time frame. But we've been cooling ever since that happened. I have a listing that's coming on, a little later in the spring, and we just met with them, and I think we've decided, that we're gonna list about 3 to 4% lower than when they bought in June of 2022. Kind of at the peak of the market. And spring does bring more buying demand. There's no question. Okay? But it doesn't change all the rules. You still have to be positioned correctly. You still have to price your home within the realm of relativity, right? You have to hit that equilibrium of value. If you don't do that, then people are just gonna watch, and they'll keep looking, right? They don't even offer low now. A lot of buyers don't even come in low. They just keep looking. That's the culture that we're in right now. It's this generation of buyers. They don't tend to just write an offer $50,000 low and see if you'll negotiate most of the time. That's rare when that happens. So if you're a seller that's looking to put your home on the market, pricing is so critical. You guys, condition is so critical, and then making sure that you're making adjustments so that the time on market doesn't last too long, because that is the third critical element when you're selling a home to get the best net value. And I tell you all these stats and information so that you know where we are right now. That helps you understand where we're going next. And so the spring demand hits oftentimes on homes that feel easy for buyers. That's where the pressure starts to build with upward pressure in pricing. And so listen, if you're trying to decide whether to list now or wait, or if you should buy this spring, I help Denver buyers and sellers make these timing calls every week. And all my contact info is right here. So feel free to reach out anytime and I'm happy to help you there. So where spring pressure starts in Denver, spring demand shows up first in areas like Central Park, Cherry Creek, Wash Park. Okay, some of these areas that are very accessible to everything. They're close to work, close to all the walkable things that people love to frequent, like restaurants, quick eat places, nightlife, things like that, typically around good school areas too, where you've got options, right? Not just the public school options, but maybe charter schools, private schools, different things around there that you can send your kids to. So I want to reiterate the reality that spring demand does not arrive evenly across Denver. It shows up first in homes that feel low friction for buyers, right? Convenient locations, updated or move-in ready condition type homes, clean pricing aligned with current demand, and homes that show and photograph well. Those are the ones that go first, and those are the ones that create that initial upward pressure that we see most springs. And I'm seeing a lot of these sellers, because they have great fundamentals with what they're doing on pricing and condition, they come on early. They try to beat the crowd, and come on before the rest of the droves of listings come on in May and June. And so if you can beat that and get in before that when the buying demand is at its peak in February, March, and April, then you'll do phenomenal, as far as the listing goes, and your experience as a seller will be much better. So I want to spotlight Central Park real quick. It's a master plan community with strong schools, and schools on great schools are all 8s and 9s and 10s out of 10. It's incredible. Okay, stunning parks. It's a master plan community that's got lots of organization to it. They've got amenities, they've got pools, they've got Stanley's Marketplace, right around the corner. Lots of places to eat, and it's attracting individuals, families, and professionals, and really close to Denver. Central Park's architectural diversity is a really cool thing. It's like not one street looks the same as the other, and not one house looks the same as the other. It's a lot of color, a lot of exciting things going on where you walk or drive on the street, and it's not just a dull, cookie cutter neighborhood of tract homes. Also, Cherry Creek is Denver's crown jewel of sophistication and luxury condos, contemporary homes, and upscale shopping. So Cherry Creek is always in season for luxury buyers. That's definitely true. But spring only intensifies that demand. And then Wash Park was the other example I used. What a great area where you've got this incredible park, Tudor homes around it, bungalows. You've got some really interesting architecture that's a lot of it's turn of the century. And you've got tree-lined streets, a lot of Denver charm, and very little turnover in those homes because people love living next to Wash Park. So those ones sell quickly, and the value definitely remains strong over there. So for buyers that are seeking, authenticity with luxury touches, that's a great way to go, and very just classic feel in that neighborhood. So all these neighborhoods, they share common traits: walkability, updated, well located, and they photograph well online. And so that's why the spring market really heats up in those places. So when people say that the Denver market is moving, they're usually talking about very specific groups of homes in these exact types of neighborhoods. And again, spring just amplifies the demand in these areas first, because buyers who've been waiting all winter, they tend to prioritize move-in ready options and proven locations. Spring pressure starts where buying feels easiest, right? And it's the most convenient, but spring also shows weak listings really fast. Let's talk about where things start to break down. Where spring breaks down, spring doesn't hide problems, it highlights them. And right now, with 29% of active listings already carrying price reductions, you're about to see which homes spring leaves behind. So this is how spring exposes weak listings, okay? It's not because the market's changed so much, but it's because increased buyer activity creates instant comparisons between those listings and the hot new listings that are coming up that are fundamentally sound. Overpriced homes get skipped fast in the spring because when buyers tour 3 updated homes and 1 overpriced listing in the same weekend, the choice is going to be obvious. And dated properties lose momentum because spring brings fresh, updated competition to the market. And these are sellers that are planners, right? That have been planning all through the holidays and the slow parts of the year so that they can be completely ready and looking just stunning online and in person. And so when you compare a tired listing to those types of listings, That poor presentation becomes obvious when buyers are actively touring. So sellers who hesitate on price adjustments fall behind the market as comparable homes sell around them during that peak activity. And so you got to make adjustments. Being listing is not enough. You have to be competitive. Even Boulder County has dipped below 98% on their list to sold price ratio. So sellers are willing to bargain when homes don't perform. I've also seen that withdrawn listings increased in 2025, meaning that sellers pulled homes off the market when they realized that their pricing or condition wasn't attracting buyers. Days of listing a home and selling it on the weekend with like an offer deadline are largely behind us. Pricing accuracy and preparation matter more than urgency right now. The market's acting more like a balanced market at the moment. Condos and townhomes definitely suffered the most in 2025, with sales down and prices dropping due to rising HOA fees and insurance costs. Attached homes in Denver dropped 1% as far as median price goes, while single-family homes held steadier, showing buyers are willing to pay for homes without ongoing fee burdens. Spring amplifies this dynamic. It doesn't create new problems, it makes existing ones impossible to ignore. And like I mentioned, we are starting to see some multiple offer situations here early on in the year. And what that means is competition does exist, but only on properties that are positioned correctly and are doing things fundamentally sound. So here's the harsh reality. Spring activity feels like momentum, but for weak listings, it's just more exposure to being passed over. Spring doesn't change your home. It reveals whether you're competitive or not. And spring separates the market. Some homes gain leverage, others don't. So let's break down how buyer and seller leverage actually shifts as spring progresses. Right now, with Denver ranking among the top 5 most buyer-friendly markets in the US, buyers start with the advantage, but that changes fast. Leverage doesn't move evenly across the spring. It moves toward the homes buyers already want. Buyers still have options. Negotiation exists on the right homes, and sellers have to earn that attention from buyers. Right now, buyers can negotiate on price, repairs, closing costs, and flexible timelines, things that weren't possible during the pandemic frenzy. Active listings are up nearly 64% year over year, giving buyers more choices to work with than they've had in years. Right now, buyers don't have to compete against a dozen offers the minute a listing goes live, and they don't have to sacrifice every inspection or appraisal contingency, which is another huge benefit that just makes the process feel better for buyers. This is the window that buyers have been waiting for, but it's not unlimited. As spring progresses, well-positioned homes gain leverage, while average homes don't. And as that happens, homes that are priced correctly, updated, and in desirable locations will start pulling multiple offers again. You'll start seeing more and more bidding wars as the spring progresses. Buyers lose flexibility quickly on those properties because competition returns for quality inventory. And by mid-spring, leverage diverges, top-tier homes regain seller leverage, while everything else stays buyer favorable. Right now, we're seeing that the top hot homes, hot new listings, tend to sell right around their list price and go pending within 15 days, while average homes that haven't done everything right sell for about 3% below list price and take 50 days to sell. This gap actually widens in spring as buyer activity increases and demand concentrates on the best inventory. It's interesting, Redfin has what they call a compete score that they use on their site. Denver sits at 59 out of 100, meaning that the market is somewhat competitive, not hot, not cold, but selective. Leverage doesn't move evenly. It moves towards the homes buyers already want. So I'll be breaking down what all of this data means to you in a second, and you'll understand how to use the spring market to your favor. But just know this, by the time the market feels competitive, it already is for the properties that matter. Leverage truly matters, but timing is where the real strategy comes from. Let's break down how spring timing actually works in Denver. By the time everyone agrees the market is hot, the best opportunities are already gone. So here's how spring timing actually works in Denver. So early spring tends to be one of the best times of the year as far as just having balance of choice for both buyers and sellers. People don't realize this in the Denver market, but our market actually has been accelerated. And it's just a fact, you had the most buying demand in our market in February, March, and April. And so that really is the best time to be on the market if you're a homeowner. What we see every year is we see, May, June, we get the most listings that come on. But that's right when demand is starting to taper and fall off. Keep in mind that families, most of the time with kids in the school system, they want to get situated in the summertime, but usually they want to be moved by the end of the school year so that they can be ready for the next school year and enjoy the whole summer without having to do move stuff during the summertime. So the spring brings faster days on market, higher likelihood of multiple offers, and stronger pricing support during this window. Listings definitely benefit from better curb appeal from landscaping, longer days daylight hours, making spring listings photograph and show a lot better. So like they say, the early bird gets the worm. If you're out there early to mid-spring, you tend to do better than those that are in that late spring summer window. It starts to get slower. So spring rewards sellers who lead, not those who wait. And as far as buyers go, it's better to start moving and get active before the rest of the crowd starts to agree that the market's hot. So if you can beat everybody to the punch, on both sides, that tends to be your best chance to get either a good deal or get your best price. So timing sets the stage, but strategy determines the outcome. Let's break down what this means if you're buying or selling. If you're selling, spring rewards early momentum. If you're buying, acting before consensus gives you leverage. Here's how to position yourself. The worst thing you can do if you're a seller is rush to market. I had a seller call me the other day and just say, hey, we're looking to buy this home. We're super interested in it in another city, and we want to get our home on the market tomorrow so that we can go buy that home, because they're telling us that if we don't have our home listed, we can't go buy that home. And I helped them pump the brakes a little bit. I was like, hey, can you just take a video of your home for me so that I can see what it looks like? They took a video, and there was clutter everywhere. We had quite a few things that we needed to work on, before they were truly ready to go on the market. And sellers have to be realistic about the current market conditions and understand where the market's at, and not be dwelling on, the bidding wars of the pandemic days. So being a little more flexible on your timing can actually be your advantage, right? You can negotiate better. You can compare more options if you hit it hard before everyone else does. Also, we're hearing that mortgage rates are forecasted to continue to ease into that low 6 to high 5 range in 2026, improving buyer sentiment. This could bring mortgage payments down below 30% of household income for the first time in several years, which would be a great thing. And this affordability improvement, combined with current inventory levels, creates a real opportunity window for buyers right now. 2026 is a normalizing market where buyers and sellers find more equilibrium, not an explosive boom. Denver's spring market makes the difference clear. Some homes are positioned right and others aren't. If you're in this market, knowing where demand gathers gives you an edge before everyone else catches on. Spring demand in Denver doesn't lift every home the same way. It separates them. Homes that are priced right, set up well, and ready to show attract buyers first. Everything else sits longer and has a harder time selling. And if you're buying or selling this spring and want a clear plan based on what's happening in Denver right now, text me or call me at this number on the screen, and I'll walk you through timing, pricing, and strategy that works for your specific situation. If you want to understand why some Denver homes are selling in the first weekend while others sit for 60+ days with price cuts, watch the video I've linked here breaking down the 6 struggling property types and 5 hot segments right now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.